Welcome back to True Crime with Christina. Warning: this episode contains graphic content, including sexual violence, murder, mutilation, and child victims. Listener discretion is strongly advised, and this content is not suitable for anyone under 18. Tonight, I'm taking you to China, to the quiet streets of Beiying in Gansu province. It is a city that for years lived in fear of a monster. A man who raped, killed, and mutilated women and girls over a span of nearly 15 years. His name was Gao Chengyong, but the media gave him another name, Jack the Ripper. Gao Chengyong was born on November 10, 1964, in the city of Beiying in north-central China. He grew up in a poor but quiet household. His family worked the land. Gao was known as a quiet child, shy, withdrawn, and obedient. He rarely caused trouble. Those who knew him described him as a loner. He barely had any friends, and even as a teen, he kept to himself. He finished high school but never pursued higher education. Instead, he started doing odd jobs around Beijing. In the late 80s, early 90s, he worked in various low-level positions that required him to travel, such as delivering supplies to small rural stores and repairing mechanical equipment in nearby towns. These short trips away from home gave him the opportunities to stalk and murder women in unfamiliar areas where police wouldn't easily link the crimes together. Eventually, he settled down and worked in a small grocery store in Beijing owned by a relative. He seemed like a calm family man. Gao was married and had two sons. His wife described him as a quiet and hard-working man. She had no idea of the horrors he committed while on the road. Gao later confessed that his urge to kill began in his early 20s. He became obsessed with women. He said he would get aroused at the sight of blood. The fantasy grew in his mind until one day he acted on it. He said it wasn't about the sex, it was about the power, the fear. Watching them suffer gave me something I couldn't get anywhere else. In 1988, Gao committed his first known murder. The victim was 23 years old woman named Li Ping. She lived alone in a small apartment in Beijing. She was a nurse, known for her sweet nature and a warm smile. On the night of the murder, she was coming home from a late shift. Gao followed her into her building. He knocked on the door, pretending asking for directions. Once inside, he attacked her. He tied her hands with a rope and raped her. Then, he slit her throat, but it did not stop there. He mutilated her genitals with a knife and left her to die in a pool of her own blood. The crime scene was brutal. Investigators said her body was nearly unrecognizable. No fingerprints were found. The killer had worn gloves. The case went cold. Over the next 14 years, Gao murdered 10 more women and girls. His victims were all between 8 and 28 years old. He always targeted women who were alone home, especially during the day. He would watch them for days before striking. In 1991, He killed 19-year-old Liu Wan. She was described as a shy and bookish with a love for poetry. Gao saw her in a local bookstore, followed her home, and waited until her parents left the house for the day. He entered through a back window. Liu was raped, stabbed 22 times, and mutilated post mortem. Blood was smeared across the walls. Gao took her underwear with him and then he left. In 1995, 12 years old Tang Wei disappeared on her way home from school. Her body was found 3 days later in a field behind an abandoned factory. She had been raped, strangled, and stabbed. Her face had been cut and her clothing was missing. Gao later confessed, "She was small, helpless. I knew no one would hear her scream." In 1998, the horrifying murder of an 8-year-old Zhu Mei shocked the entire region. She was walking home from school when Gao snatched her off the street. He took her to an abandoned building nearby. There, he raped and murdered her. Her body was found days later. Her throat had been slit and her body mutilated in the same way as his previous victims. In 2000, Gao killed 28 years old Chan Li, a factory worker who had just returned home from a night shift. Her neighbor heard a scream around 5:30 a.m., but by the time they checked, it was too late. She was found naked in her bathroom, blood everywhere, with over 40 stab wounds. Her hands had been tied, and her mouth stuffed with fabric. In 2001, he killed Wang Feng, a 20-year-old university student. She had long black hair and was described by friends as outgoing and kind. She was found in her dorm, lying face down naked with her hands tied. She had been raped and stabbed over 30 times. Her genitals had been cut open with a knife. Again, the killer left no fingerprints. He cleaned the scene meticulously. The police noticed a disturbing pattern. All the victims were raped, had their throats slit, and their bodies mutilated. Most were found in their own homes. There was no sign of forced entry. This suggested the killer was watching them and entering when they were vulnerable. For years, the Beijing police worked tirelessly. Over 230 suspects were interrogated, but no solid leads came up. Gao had no criminal record. He kept a low profile and traveled between cities for work, committing murders in different jurisdictions that didn't share information easily. In 2004, investigators finally connected 5 of the murders through a matching DNA. But they still had no suspect. Gao was cautious. He never left behind personal items, and he didn't talk to anyone about his crimes. In 2016, everything changed. Gao's son was arrested for a minor theft and had to give a DNA sample. The lab found a close match with the unknown killer's DNA. That led police straight to Gao. They tracked him to a small grocery store when he was working. He was arrested on site without resistance. At the station, Gao confessed to all 11 murders. He spoke in a calm, emotionless tone. He said, "I could not control it. Every time I saw a woman alone, I wanted to do it again. The blood, the fear, it made me feel alive. Sometimes I watched them for days. I knew when they would be alone. I waited for the perfect moment. I didn't want to stop. I felt powerful, like I owned their last breath. Investigators asked him why he targeted such young girls. He replied coldly, "They were easy. No one suspects you when you're helping a child, and they don't scream as loud." They asked if he ever thought of stopping. Gao said, "Once I started, I could not stop. I knew I would be caught eventually. I just did not know when." The lead investigator described this interview as surreal. He was polite, calm, like he was describing a grocery list. He was held in custody for nearly 2 years while the trial was prepared. Chinese law requires a thorough investigation and multiple levels of approval in a death penalty cases. The prosecution had over 800 pages of evidence, including DNA matches, crime scene photos, autopsy reports, and Gao's full taped confession. On January 3rd, 2019, Gao was executed in Beijing. The exact time of execution was never released. The announcement came hours later through a Chinese state media. His execution took place quietly, with no press allowed inside. While the method was not officially confirmed by authorities, multiple sources indicated that he was put to death by lethal injection. In China, the process is conducted with strict secrecy. In most cases, the inmate is sedated, then injected with chemicals that stop the heart. Death usually occurs within minutes. Though witnesses from other cases have said the condemned can sometimes twitch or gasp during their final moments. Gao showed no emotion before his execution. According to one guard, he remained still and silent. No family was present. Tonight, we remember Li Ping, Lu Wenwang, Tang Wei, Zhu Mei, Chan Li, Wang Feng, and all the others whose lives were stolen by this monster. These women were daughters, sisters, students, nurses. They had dreams, families, and futures. Gao Chengyong hid behind a quiet mask for years. His legacy will never be one of power. It will be a reminder of what happens when evil goes unnoticed. Thank you for listening to True Crime with Christina. Until the next episode, stay safe, stay aware, and always keep an eye open.